Unboxing time! If you are interested in the history of economics, in particular the history of inflation, you should really pay attention to the coins of Emperor Gallienus, who ruled the empire between the years 253 and 260 with his father, Valerian, and by himself from 260 to 268. Now, poor Gallienus didn't have it easy. His reign was plagued with internal and external conflict, economic collapse, personal tragedies, and his coins reflect that. These coins I recently purchased illustrate quite well the debacle that was his reign, and how his coins, which start with a relatively decent appearance and silver content, completely collapse into small scraps of copper with a testimonial amount of silver added to them in the attempt to give them some intrinsic value. The upside of this hyperinflationary disaster is that, well, his pieces are super common. The many issues he had to produce, especially to pay for his troops, are very diverse in style, and he's a fun and affordable collector to collect. So yeah, let's look at some of his coins. And we start with a coin from very early in his reign. This Antoninianus was most likely struck between maybe 254, 256 at the Mint of Rome, based on the legends and the style. And as you can see, it has a pretty decent silvery appearance. However, by that time, Rome was living through a period called the military anarchy. The previous 20 years or so before this coin was made, saw emperors being killed one after the other by pretenders to the throne. It was really a meat grinder. And as you can imagine, in the middle of this chaos, people issued as many coins as possible to pay for their troops in their bids to power. And no one was really worried about being fiscally responsible. So with every passing emperor, more and more coins were struck with less and less silver in them, being replaced with copper. However, this coin, which features this really cool image of Letitia on the reverse, the incarnation of happiness, shows a remarkably good silvery appearance. Was it made out of good silver? No, it had at most 30% silver in it, probably 25% or even less. The Romans were as crafty with monetary manipulation as most central banks are today. But back then they actually had to physically make the coins that looked good with less available silver, rather than just having to add a couple of zeros on a keyboard like the Federal Reserve does today. They achieved these high-quality silver appearance with some very smart chemistry tricks. They heated up the flan prior to striking, and then they use acids to leach the surface copper from the coin, giving the surface this very shiny, silvery appearance. But as we will see on the next coin, their tricks wouldn't work for very long. Now, check out this coin. Here, things are changing a little bit. Now, this one was struck probably a few years later, maybe 256, 258, and it comes from the Mint of Antioch on the Roman East. We can see on the portrait a remarkable difference in style compared to the Mint of Rome. I personally prefer the Western portraits, but this one has its charm, with Gallienus wearing his battle cuirass ready for a fight. A curious thing about this coin, it was actually struck by his dad, Valerian, in the name of Gallienus. Valerian took care of the Eastern Empire, where this coin was made, while Gallienus took care of the West. However, both co-emperors also issued coins in the name of the other. On the reverse, we have Victory, giving Gallienus a laurel wreath with the legends Victoria Germanica, in a way congratulating Gallienus for his defense of the Rhine and Danube frontiers. Now, notice the much more coppery appearance this coin has. Whoever found and cleaned this coin maybe exaggerated a bit on the use of acids, because it not only removed any incrustations this coin might have had, it also removed that thin silver layer I just talked about, exposing the low metal quality of the core of the coin. That's a bit of a shame for this coin as a collectible, but it's quite convenient for our conversation that we're having, because it exposes what a real coin with 20% of silver should look like. That's really cool. This coin is like red hot. It's red hot evidence of Rome's monetary manipulations. For the next coin, let's do a jump in time to the year 265 AD. Now, things were precarious in the 250s, but in the 260s, it was a dumpster fire. Valerian was captured by the Persians after a crushing defeat and never came back. A good chunk of the western provinces seceded from the Central Empire. Barbarians were pillaging basically everywhere. Gallienus had it rough. And as we can see from this very dark Antoninianus, the amount of silver available to make coins absolutely tanked. By 265, this coin from the Mint of Rome had, at most, 5% silver in it. So little silver that it doesn't even show up on the alloy. Their old surface improvement tricks didn't work anymore when you had so little silver on your coins. They had to add a thin silver layer to the coin after it was struck, like a thin silver film, which, as we can see, wore off with a little bit of circulation. The style on the coins also deteriorated. The engravers were probably being overworked, so they had to simplify the portraits. On the reverse, we have Jupiter. The legends read Iovi Statori, Jupiter, the one who protects, who maintains. Exactly what Jupiter was maintaining, I frankly don't know, as everything was falling apart, but hey, here he is. I don't know if the camera is able to pick it up. I'm gonna zoom in, but I feel like at the very center of the flan, I can see a very gentle silvery sheen coming through. This might be some very thin remnants of the silvering, or the shine of a little bit of silver on the alloy shining through. You know, copper and silver don't mix very well, so you might have uneven concentrations of a metal in certain parts. Good looking coin for the time, frankly. Heavy, some 4 grams, big, wide flan, but as we can see, a dramatic deterioration in just a few years. Next, we have a very ugly, very worn, but very rare and interesting piece of Gallienus. Now, why would I add such an ugly, small scrap of a coin to my collection? Pay attention to the bust of the emperor. It doesn't have that spiky, radiate crown from the Antoninianus, or the double denarius as some call it. That's because this is a rare denarius, a single denarius. You see, the denarius hadn't been struck in large numbers since the year 240. That's 25 years before our coin we have here. The double denarius became the main silver denomination due to inflation. It wasn't profitable for the state to make single denarii anymore. By 265, when this coin was made, the mints weren't even striking the base metal denominations anymore. The assis, the dupondi, the sestertii, all the copper was being siphoned, was being directed to make Antoniniani, which had the highest denominational value. So basically, it didn't make sense for a denarius to exist so late in the empire's history. It wasn't profitable for the mints to make such a coin. That's because this is probably a commemorative piece, maybe a donative, given by the emperor to the impoverished people of Rome. The reverse features the goddess of fruitfulness, of plenty, Uberitas. The legends say Uberitas Augusti, the fruitfulness of the emperor, which once again is a little bit of an irony considering how little purchasing power this individual coin had. If I was Gallienus, I would have been ashamed to be giving the people of Rome single denarii. At least give them the piece worth 2 denarii. They were being stingy even in the public ceremonies of imperial largesse or supposed largesse. However, it's interesting to see that even in these troubled times, they were still doing these old ceremonies where the emperor shared his riches with the Roman people. And the mint actually had the work of coming up with special coin issues for the occasion. So yeah, a rare coin, not visually impressive, but very cool as a historical piece. And finally, for the last coin, I wanted to wrap it up with what a typical Antoninianus of Gallienus of the time looked like, because the previous one we looked was a little bit too good. The only reason I got this coin was because the portrait looked particularly charming to me. And its lack of wear implies this coin is actually in mint state. However, everything else in this coin is very lackluster. The coin looks bad even without any wear, which shows just how bad quality control was at the mint. We have a coin of nearly oval shape, with most of the legends off the flan. I can only read Ali of Gallienus Augustus, but hey, at least we have a nice bust of Gallienus wearing his battle cuirass, although this is yet another simplified late design. The reverse, well, it isn't much better. We have Securitas Perpetua, eternal safety, a little bit more of that desperate wishful thinking that is so typical of Gallienus and his imperial propaganda. So she is standing, holding a scepter, and leaning against a small column. At the lower right corner of the reverse, we can actually see a tiny bit of silvering still attached to the coin, which is always nice to see. And here we have it, a quick unboxing of coins struck under the tragic reign of Gallienus, and a great example of how war and political instability can completely destroy the coinage of an empire as powerful and as important as the Roman Empire in just a few years. What about you? Do you have a coin of Gallienus? Let us know in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Consider becoming a Patreon of the channel for exclusive perks, and I'll see you soon.